Hey everyone, it's Leanne. Welcome to another video on my art channel. Today I'm going to share with you the process I did to create this Oricorio Pokemon. This is on toned tan paper using colored pencils. So to begin, I sketched out the drawing using my Faber-Castell pencil in 2B. And then I'm going to go over this now that I have my drawing down. I'm going to go over it with fine liners. These are Staedtler fine liner marker pens. And I like to outline each colored section in the corresponding marker color before I color in that section. And then once I have that done, I like to work on the face first. I feel that it's a good anchor point for my drawing. If I have a successful looking face, then I feel confident coloring the rest of my piece. So I like to do the eyes first. And so to do that, I'm using a colored pencil by Prismacolor. This isn't the common ones that you would use, not the Premier Pro, but this is the Vera Thin series. So what this means is it has a harder lead, and so it creates a sharper point, and it's easier for doing finer details. So I use these to do the very small areas, and mostly that is the eye of the Pokemon and around the face. So I like to use these to get the eye going, but I find that they don't blend as easily just because they are that harder lead. So I do find that after I've outlined the area and put down the base color, I kind of switch between using Prismacolor Premier colored pencils because they do blend so nicely, and then coming back in with the Vera Thin to create the sharp edges of those color pieces. The black part of the eye, and then the blue at the bottom is the highlight. I'm also adding a little bit of brownish gray in there as well, just to blend the two colors together. For the rest of the drawing, I will be using Faber-Castell Polychromos pencil crayons, or colored pencils. I started out using Prismacolor, and I do really like them. This one here is actually by Caran d'Ache, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I did start using Prismacolor first, and they blend really nicely, they blend easily. I find that they get waxy though if you blend too long with them, you put down too much of the pigment. It gets to a point where nothing more is being added. So I've switched over to the Polychromos. I'm a big Faber-Castell fan to begin with, and they're a little bit more expensive, but I do enjoy how bright they are, the saturation of color, and I do enjoy blending with them a bit better. It's a little bit of a different process, and it was a learning curve for jumping from Prismacolor to Polychromos. But I have been using them for the last few pieces that I've been working on, and I'm really happy with how they come out. Now to talk about the Caran d'Ache colored pencil I showed you earlier, that one is a white one, and those are probably, of all the artist grade pencil crayons that I've found, or colored pencils, those are the most expensive by a couple dollars more than the Faber-Castell. And I think they're about $5 or $7 per one. So they're a little bit more expensive. But the thing I like about the Caran d'Ache white one, is the only one I've used so far, is it lays down color over anything. So if you're using Prismacolor or you're using Polychromos and you lay down your highlight first, you use white and you put down your highlight, then if you come in with your other colors for that section and you color over the white, it starts to blend in with the other colors. And eventually you can lose that white highlight. You can blend too much and it becomes desaturated, or I guess the tone becomes more of what it's taking on the other colors that you're adding. What's nice about the Caran d'Ache is if you lose that highlight, you can come in at the end, no matter what color of pencil crayon you're coloring over, that Caran d'Ache will put down a bright white. It's a very opaque pencil, and so it is amazing for just bringing back those highlights that might have got lost. So I've been using it on I think it's 2 pieces that I've used it with. It's pretty new for me, but it is really, really amazing. Now I haven't used any of the other Caran d'Ache, but I would be curious to know. I'm sure if I tried one, I would be spoiled and want to jump over because they're pretty top quality. But if anything else, if you do have access to it and you are coloring with colored pencils, I would definitely recommend picking up a white one because it's such a lifesaver. And so now for the Oricorio, I'm trying to create some really vivid colors. This Oricorio is a dark burgundy, and so the reference photo that I used was a pretty flat dark red. And so I really wanted this guy to have a lot of shine and a strong contrast between the highlights and then the base color of him. So I went through and kind of thought about the colors that I could include. How could I make red more interesting? So I thought about bringing the highlights into the yellow and cream area. So I always like to start with a white highlight. I love the crispness of white. And then I decided to work from white, adding in some creams and yellows, and then slowly blending into sort of a cranberry red. Whereas in the reference photo, it's sort of a flat red. It's not very exciting. But I thought the cranberry burgundy red, the kind of wineish color, would be really nice for this one. So when I start a piece like this, I like to block out the highlights first. That really gives me an anchor point to know where I need to protect, which areas I need to protect when I'm coloring. Because the highlights are the most important, and again, they're the hardest to get back if you color too much into them. And once I have the highlights done, then I come in and work on blending out my colors from those highlights. So in this case, from the white, then it becomes the cream and the yellow, and then it becomes a medium red tone, and then it goes into a dark red tone. So after that, I lay down a very light base of all the colors, and that includes bringing in the shadows as well. Now I'm doing the feet here because I wanted the feet to match the beak color. So I've only used this color in small pieces in this composition. So the beak is really tiny and the feet are really tiny. And so I didn't want to forget what colors I was using to color those with, so I did those first. And so I have some corals, some pinks, some purples, and just blending those all together. Another tip that I like to do with Pokemon is when I'm drawing the eyes or coloring the eyes, I like to color an outline around the eyes. So not just coloring the body color to the eye, but adding a little bit of a highlight around the eye just to help it pop a little more and add dimension. And just helps it look a little bit more realistic. Because this is a bird Pokemon, it's very round and plump. And so I really wanted to convey kind of its chubbiness, I guess. It's not chubby, but it's more like round. So I really wanted to convey that. So I found that putting the highlight around the eye helped to give it sort of that round texture or that round look. And now you can see, as I come in and out, you can see the colors that I'm using to blend this with and to create that base color of red. Now, as I mentioned before, I did start it with Prismacolor colored pencils, and I've been slowly transitioning over to the Polychromos. So I bought a starter set of 12, and then as I've been working on pieces, I've been kind of building upon my collection based on what I'm coloring next. So in the case of this Oricorio, I did go to my local art store and I picked up some red colored pencils from the Polychromos line to use on this piece. But I do mix the two together. I don't just exclusively use Prismacolor or just exclusively use Polychromos. I do blend them. So if I find that there is a purple that's in the Polychromos or a plum that's in the Prismacolor that works well together, visually they look nice, then I'll use them together. And they do blend. You can blend them together. It's finicky. You need to have a bit of patience. So just doing really light layers is the way to do it. And if you follow that rule of thumb, just doing light layers, then you'll be fine. Everything should blend really nicely, and that's how I achieved the look. So I did use some Prismacolors in this Oricorio. Primarily, I used Polychromos. But you can blend the two, which is nice. Now, with the Oricorios, there are 4 types. So in the Sun and Moon series, There is this type, which is, I believe, called Braille. And then there is like a cheerleader type that's yellow and it's got pom-poms. And then there's another type that's sort of a purpley blue. And then the final type is a pink one, and it sort of looks like it's a Hawaiian Pokemon, Oricorio. So it's got a grass skirt and sort of the hat to match as well. And so I'd like to do all 4 of them in a series, and then I would like to put them together in one composition. So scan them in and do a Photoshop layout of the 4 of them together. I'm a big fan of birds. I really like birds. They're cute. I don't know why, but I'm kind of drawn to these Pokemon because they're birds. So I think they're really cute. So that's kind of what I'm thinking I might do. That's my goal. Now it's funny, when I did this Pokemon, I drew it out, sketched it out, and I colored it within a couple days. I did the red part of the body, I did the eyes, the face, the beak, the earrings, and I left everything except the black part of this Pokemon. And so what happened is I was working on it, but then I had to go away. I went on a trip, and then I got back, and then I was really busy because I was away on a trip, and then Christmas came, and then I had to get ready for Christmas and plan and do baking and buying and decorating, and so I just got crazy busy. So I didn't finish this Pokemon until the Christmas holidays last week. So it's really funny because it sat on my desk for probably 2 months. I think it was October when I started it, and it was so close to being finished. But the longer it sat there, the more intimidated I got to finishing it, and I got really worried that I wouldn't do as good a job because I hadn't touched it for a few weeks or a few months, and I was worried that I would forget all the techniques and lose my touch, and it was crazy. And so I had to finally be brave and take a breath and be like, okay, I have to finish this. I need to sit at my desk and just focus on coloring this Pokemon and getting it finished, because I was really excited to see what it would look like at the end. And I've never colored black before in this style, so I was sort of nervous on how to do that too, so I gave some thought about it. But it actually turned out okay. I was happy with it in the end, and it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. I think more of it is just the build-up and then the procrastinating from doing it, which sometimes can be evil, but I pushed through it, and it didn't take very long, and I'm so happy I did, because I'm happy with how this turned out, and I'm ready to do some more. And I feel that I've been working on colored pencil for over a year now, and I feel that this is the best one I've done yet as far as shading and highlights go and that sort of thing, blending. So I'm really excited with this one. Now for the black, I did have to think about how to make that color interesting too, because it's easy to just grab the black and color it in and be like, okay, it's black, it's done. But that's boring. So I really had to think about how I could bring in some colors that would complement the red and the colors that I had used, but still stand out and make it look like black. So what I ended up doing is using some lilac and cornflower blue highlights. And I did start with white. I always like to start with a white highlight, but then I colored over it lightly and kind of dulled it down a bit with the other colors. But I brought in the cornflower blue and then the lilac around those highlights and then bled it into the black. And so I thought it ended up turning out really nice, because the eye, the top of the eyelid and the feet also have that pinkish color, that pinkish purple. And so I thought it ended up being a nice complement to that as well, and kind of tying those colors together. And that was almost a happy accident, but I thought it looked really nice. And I do apologize if I sound a little bit weak. I have a cold that I'm suffering from, so hopefully I don't sound too bad, but I'm trying to make it through. And so now that I have everything colored, I'm going to outline it with a white gel pen. I love this look because it looks like a sticker. And so people will look at the book, and when I show it to them, and they're like, oh my gosh, it looks like a sticker. And I'm like, I know, it's kind of neat because you expect it to just be a drawing in a book, and it kind of gives it a different dimension and kind of tricks your mind for a second. And I think of the entire process, this part's my favorite. I just love coloring the white outline. It's kind of therapeutic and I don't have to think about what I'm doing. I just need to make sure that the line is even all the way around. And so here's a look at the finished result. I hope you like it. I'm really happy with this. I'm really proud of it, and I'm excited to try doing more of the Oricorios because they are so cute, and I really like this art style. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you're notified as I post more art videos to my channel. Thank you so much for watching.